It's dark out, but we'll keep the lights on. It's The Shift with Shane Hewitt.
The good news is, from the phone call failures of last week, the internet failures in Ontario and such, that something good's probably going to come of it. Redundancy, help from other providers. It was such an unbelievable failure of service around cell phones and internet with Rogers last Friday. Now, that seems to be sorting itself out with some hard work on the end of the company. The scammers are all over this, though. All over it. The emails that are coming in, we've already got our corporate alerts on it saying, by the way, don't do this. Hank the hacker, Hank Fordham, is here, and he's helping us understand all of these things around it. Hank, how are you?
I'm not bad. Thanks for having me, Shane.
Great stuff. Emails are flying, Hank. Click here to get your Rogers refund. We need to be very aware, don't we?
Oh, man. You know, I knew that this was going to happen, and we see this every time there's something like, you know, every time something hits the media, cyber criminals and fraudsters tend to they get a hold of it, and they take advantage of it and try and capitalize. And, you know, the interesting thing is that these are usually easier to track because you can look at the number of fake domains, or like, so, you know, rogersrefund.com, for example, which is still a good method. But in this case, there's a lot more, and I'm sure you may have even seen a few of them, like fake Interac e-transfer domains being registered so that they can kind of hoodwink their victims into trying to collect some kind of a refund.
Well, it's a little ironic because Interac was down because of all of it.
Yeah.
So, forgive that part. And that's what they do, right? They'll go buy domain names that sound like, that look like they're legit, like getyourrogersrefund.com or something that's totally scammy when you're aware of it. But if you're not aware that that's a thing, and for those who don't know how the internet works, it's very easy to go buy a domain name and be able to create that. You can have that done in a matter of seconds, if not minutes, and point that at a website. So, you know, people don't know how easy it is to do that. It is easier. Let's put this into context with something security-based. It is less time for you to create a domain name, find a domain name that's out there, buy it, point it to where it needs to go, than it would be for you to go from here to the hardware store and get a key copied for your front door. Fair statement?
That's exactly true. And you can even, people are using, like, paid commercial link shorteners to support their scams. Like the one that I saw recently shared by Ontario Police was fraudster was offering $50 refund via a fake e-transfer link that had the words 50 Rogers outage in it. And it was serviced, and a lot of these links I'm noticing are being served by a popular link shortening service that, you know, that as a cybersecurity professional, I think it calls into question why they're not screening the services that they're offering. And they're making it really easy for cyber criminals to disguise their links. And like you said, it's quicker than a trip through the drive-thru. It's a very, very quick and easy process.
Now, link shortening, for those who don't know, link shortening is so you don't have these massive links pasted into things like, you know, it's theshift.ca/Shane/Tuesday/July 12th/2022/Shane talks to Hank /.html ? Subject equals, right? Like, it's to make it less daunting that way. And on the technology end, of course, there's all kinds of analytic tracking, cookie tracking, cookie placement. So, I mean, that's how they find out all about us. But at the same time, it comes up as, you know, short dot, you know, IE dot or /Rogers rebate.
Yeah, I'm seeing one of the first I saw was from my friend Ryan Nazareth. He shared a similar finding with another. It's a Bitly link, and so it's like bit.ly, and some of them look really obvious because it's just, it's random letters and numbers, but some of them say things like 50s Rogers outage or Rogers refund or something like that. And they're, like you said, they're meant for companies to be able to buy kind of a shortened vanity link so that they can share, their YouTube video or something and have some extra data behind that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how do we identify these things? Because they look legit, Hank. When they come in the emails, they steal the Rogers, the logo. They do all the things that look exactly legit. I've received a couple lately where I've been digging through them going, whoa, this is good. And it looks so legitimate. How can you even tell? How can we even stop this?
But besides Rogers commenting and saying things like we're aware of the scam text messages being sent and whatever, and again reminding people to forward suspicious text messages to 7726 or SPAM. But there's some important questions to ask yourself when you've become a target of one of these scams. And so if you get a text message and you're looking at it and there's a few questions that you should ask yourself. Is the sender unknown to you? Are you asked to click on a link or open any kind of attachment? Are they making any kind of request for your personal information, like your banking login or maybe even just your phone number? And are you being asked to do something, and are there spelling or grammar mistakes? I think that, if the answer to all of these, besides spelling or grammar mistakes, is no, then it's likely a scam. And companies like Rogers are never going to contact you through a text message to let you know of a refund. It's just going to be posted automatically on your account. So I think it's important that if you can just to keep it very simple, if you can just keep your information a little more private, you'll be at an advantage. If anyone is asking you for information, then you should be taking the extra effort to contact that company. In this case, if you got a text message from Rogers, you can contact them and ask them if that refund is legitimate. And they'll likely tell you very quickly that it's not.
Okay, so I almost fell victim to one today. I consider myself rather computer savvy, but I almost did. And then I have a question to follow this up. Is that today I received a message on Instagram from my buddy John and said, hey, I'm competing in a contest, a photo contest. He's a photographer. Will you vote for me? And question mark. And I replied back, hey, John, great to hear from you. Absolutely, I will. Where's the contest? And then I got a text message that said, hi. And then I got another message on Instagram that said, you're going to receive a text message from Instagram. We will send you the link there. And then on Telegram, I got a message from John saying, my Instagram has been hacked. If you receive a text message, it's not me. And so these people, because they somehow got into his contacts or whatever, right? Like, who are your friends? They sent a message. They found me out. They normal conversation on Instagram. Then they sent me a text message. Now, the text message came from an American area code. And so that was telling. And then, and I didn't respond to the text message. And then they tried to move the conversation from Instagram over to text to make it more legitimate. Now, after all that was done, I just replied back, why don't you give John his Instagram back? By the way, I forward your phone number and everything off to the police. Probably not a legitimate phone number. That's not going to threaten them probably in any way. But at least I've become inconvenient now, and they're going to leave me alone. But someone else, if John hadn't have intervened, I would have been like, wait a second, that's not John's phone number. But aside from that, Hank, I almost fell for it. So what do we do? Like, how do we get through that part?
You know, this one's really common right now. I actually had a friend close to me who fell for something similar where, you know, what they'll do, this is pretexting. What they'll do is they'll compromise one of your friends or a mutual friend of them, and they'll make an attempt to, you know, to move laterally through their friends list by, you know, sending them a message saying, hey, I think I got hacked. I need to reset my password, and I've made you one of my trusted contacts. In order for me to reset or gain access to my account, I need you to send me the reset password link. And you might think, as I explain this, I would never fall for that. I would never send someone my reset password link. But in the way that this scam is carried out, you know, it's really hard to notice unless you had someone that contacted you and let you know that this was going on. And I think that kind of leads on really well to a campaign I saw created by the Sutina police, and it was called Who's Your Connection? And it kind of orbited around more with, you know, not plugging into public chargers, but it also kind of centered on creating an open line of communication with friends. So if you get contacted with a link like this, or if someone messages you with some kind of a request like this, or even your employer, then to contact them and try and make a verbal phone call or make some kind of contact where you can confirm that this is actually legitimate.
Detail always matters, right? Ask a question that only that person can answer. Is that a good start?
Well, I mean, I think that if the risk were super high, say that I've had cases where someone were, you know, I've heard of people using deep fakes so that they can authorize a transaction over the phone. And I think in that case, there should obviously be a little bit more security, like a PIN or even something even created that you can ask each other. But in most cases, just having that open line of communication and making that phone call is enough.
I've always thought of it this way. Ask a question that's wrong and ask a question that for detail, right? It would be like if I, you know, was calling you, Hank, and I said, you know, hey, Hank, how's Steve doing? Right? Right? And then the bad, exactly. Who's Steve? But the bad guy might say, oh, Steve's great. Right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, right? Like, you know, if your partner's name is Susie and I'm like, hey, you know, I haven't talked to Tracy in a long time. You know, how's she doing? You guys getting along okay? Right? And then,
you know,
oh yeah, Tracy's fine. You know, stuff like that. I find that it always bait them the wrong way and give them a little dose of their own medicine. And they're going to tell you real quick if they know what you're talking about.
I love that because it's like, you know, some people might hear that and think, oh, that's silly, but you have no idea how effective that is for someone trying to execute a phishing campaign. And I speak obviously from the ethical side of it with my experience, but, I've even, you know, I've had people hack my friend's account, and then you can tell that it's someone like, hey, how are you doing? Have you heard of the new government grant going around? And immediately you know that it's a scammer. But I've even been able to kind of, you know, play dumb with them or ask the wrong questions and, or I guess the right questions, if you will, and even get them to click on a phishing link in return, and then get the friend's account back and return it to them. So, you know, you have no idea how effective not only being inconvenient, but just having that little bit of extra creativity behind, like you said, asking the question that you know is the wrong answer or going to have the wrong answer. It just puts you at a massive advantage against someone trying to execute these kinds of scams against you.
Yeah. And why not, right? Why not dance with them enough to, and give them wrong information, because you will find out really quick, like, how's the puppy? I don't care. Like, that's something that is obviously wrong, but they wouldn't know that. And their BS meter is going to go on, and they're going to have to try to dance their way through that. And at least, that might help out. Okay, let me ask you this then, Hank. One of the things you and I have preached on here over and over and over again is two-factor authentication. Let's stay on the topic of that cell outage. There was an awful lot of people that had no cellular service, obviously, because of what happened on Friday. And there was a ton of things that could not be logged into. And I can tell you this, I had no cell service on Friday. Luckily, it was my day off. I did not need to log into email and everything else. Here's what's happened in our world. In our world, we have authenticator apps and stuff to log into all things corporate. We've got to log in again and again and again through all of this code here and password there. It seems to me to be, the very secure of the corporate world when we log into things. But one of the things that I haven't been able to do is update my authenticator app because of the fact that we need to be on the network to do that. We're still working from home. So I need to use the text end of it in order to be able to do that, because you can use the confirm by text message. If I needed to log into anything on Friday when everything went out, now two-factor authentication has failed. How do we work around that? There was an awful lot of people that could not recover passwords. They could not log into things. There's things they couldn't do because their cell provider was out.
I immediately, and I don't know if this is because I just had a daughter actually, but I don't know if it's because of my recent exposure to the hospital or not, but I immediately think of things like medical care because they're massive with enforcing two-factor authentication. And what I see them doing a lot is using physical authentication keys. And one of the really big problems I have with that is, okay, so I get a YubiKey or I do whatever, I carry it around and I can use it for so many accounts, but it's not very flexible. So, I've been trying to work on building and developing an alternative to YubiKey, that allows you to store much more on it and it has a lot more flexibility. But, having said that, I think that, before we really move to true passwordless authentication, things like physical authentication tokens are really your best bet. There's no case where you wouldn't be able to access the account unless you lost the physical authentication token. And there's ways, there's features, and especially with YubiKey being one of the industry leaders, that you can protect that YubiKey even if it does get lost, with making backups or making it useless to someone that does discover it or find it. So, with two-factor, I always try and lean away from text messaging because it's not hard for someone, even when everything is working perfectly, to take your SIM card and have it, what we call doing a SIM swapping attack, and have your SIM card cloned, and then they can actually eavesdrop on your two-factor authentication codes, and not only that, but your text messages as well. So I would definitely lean away towards, using applications that remain on your phone, like Google Authenticator or things that rely on text messaging. But at the same time, you might not have that flexibility in some cases.
YubiKey is one of those USB things, which actually goes back in time because, those USB keys, they were so popular 15 years ago. And now it's kind of a reversal of the role of this whole wireless access thing. And I know that some mega secure organizations, I've got some friends who work in like mega secure stuff. They all use a USB key, plus they use the card key. You have to have your two-factor plus your USB key plus the card key in order to get into their networks, like the full-on cards, those old school cards. So, there's a lot going on there, man. There's so much here. We didn't even get to the Canada, Russia hacking and all those other things, Hank. So we're going to invite you to come back on again soon so we can talk about this more next week. What is going on in the world in international hacking in order to keep people safe? Look, we're not here to scare anybody. We want you to be able to feel secure and confident in what you do. That's why Hank offers you. Those are the questions you got to ask yourself in order to make sure that this is all okay. Thanks so much for being here, Hank.
Yes, sir. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hank Fordham, Hank the Hacker. It's The Shift. I'm Shane Hewitt.
Canada's brightest conversation in the dark of night. It's The Shift with Shane Hewitt.